They say you never truly know someone until you've seen their browser history or opened a package that wasn't meant for you. I got the latter. And I swear I wasn't snooping, it literally had my name on it. Sort of. Let me back up. It was a normal Tuesday, the kind of boring that makes you grateful for silence. My husband, Nate, had just left for a business trip to Phoenix. I use air quotes because, well, you'll see why. I was in my robe, coffee in hand, scrolling through Pinterest recipes I had no intention of cooking, when the doorbell rang. UPS. The guy handed me a medium-sized box addressed to N. Carter. Now, my name is Elena Carter. And yes, technically I could be an N. Carter if someone squinted hard enough. But Nate was usually the online shopper. I hadn't ordered anything. And the return address? A boutique jewelry store in Soho. Fancy. Suspiciously fancy. I opened it. Sue me. Inside was a delicate velvet box and a note written in perfect cursive, "You were right. She has no idea. Can't wait for next weekend. J." My stomach turned. I stared at the note like it might morph into something less incriminating if I blinked hard enough. Spoiler, it didn't. I opened the box. A gold necklace. Elegant. Subtle. Inscribed with the word always. Funny. Nate used to sign notes to me that way. He stopped about 8 months ago, around the same time he got busier at work and started sleeping with his phone under his pillow like it was a newborn baby. Now, you might be thinking, maybe it's for you? Maybe it's a surprise? Yeah, I thought that too. For about 5 seconds. Until I flipped the tiny gift receipt tucked inside. To Janelle. Always. N. My hand started shaking. Janelle? I didn't know a Janelle. At least, not in our life. And the only always I'd been getting lately was, "I'll always be tired after these meetings." I don't remember setting the box down, but I must have, because the next thing I knew, I was standing at Nate's closet with his shirt staring back at me like smug little liars. I reached for the top shelf where he kept things he thought I'd never check, like the passport he suddenly needed just in case or the mystery duffel bag he always packed himself when he traveled. I opened it. Inside, a second phone. Locked, of course. Reader, I cracked it in under 5 minutes. Hint, if a man loves 3 things, golf, whiskey, and his college football team, try one of those as the password. The messages made me sit down. Literally. I slid to the floor right there in our bedroom, surrounded by polo shirts and betrayal. Janelle wasn't just a fling. She was a second life. Photos. Reservations. Love notes. A shared Spotify playlist titled Us. Us. And here I was thinking we were the us. I sat on the floor for a while, the box with the necklace in one hand, the burner phone in the other, wondering when I'd become the side character in my own marriage. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call my best friend or dramatically throw his things on the lawn. Instead, I did something worse. I smiled. Because if Nate wanted to live a double life, I could give him a front row seat to how it feels to lose everything when he least expects it. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in our bed, well, my bed now, watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling while that burner phone sat on Nate's pillow like some cursed artifact. Every few minutes, it would buzz. Janelle, checking in. Asking if he landed safely. If he missed her. If they were still on for their weekend at the lake house. Our lake house. You know what's fun? Realizing your honeymoon spot is now just a GPS pin in someone else's romantic getaway. I don't know what hit me harder, the betrayal or how stupid I felt for not seeing it. I mean, how does a man manage to keep a whole second relationship going while living under the same roof as you? Cooking dinner with you? Watching Jeopardy? Like nothing's wrong? That's when I knew I had to see her. Not text. Not call. Not some anonymous burner account with a "just so you know" DM. No. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it face to face. And here's the kicker, I already knew where she lived. How? Because my dear husband, ever the meticulous liar, had labeled her address apartment 4B in a text about where to send the necklace. Janelle had moved recently, and Nate had helped her hang curtain rods. Isn't that sweet? So, at 9 a.m. the next morning, I put on my favorite black turtleneck, dramatic but understated, and drove across town. A 25-minute ride that felt like I was hand-delivering my own heartbreak. Her building was nice. Too nice. Like, someone's getting help with the rent, nice. The lobby had one of those minimalist setups, white walls, a lone orchid, the scent of overpriced candles in the air. I found 4B, took a breath, and knocked. Soft music was playing inside. Something jazzy. Of course. Nothing screams homewrecker chic like brunch jazz. The door opened. And there she was. Janelle. She was not what I expected. Younger, yes, but not that young. Pretty, but not in a way that screamed Instagram filter. No, she had that kind of quiet confidence that made you instantly suspicious of her skincare routine and her intentions. She wore a sweatshirt, leggings, no makeup. She looked normal. Which, honestly, made it worse. "Can I help you?" she asked, tilting her head. I held up the box with the necklace. "You forgot your gift." Her smile faltered. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "I'm Nate's wife." And just like that, she turned white. You know that exact moment when someone's soul momentarily vacates their body? I watched it happen in real time. Her mouth opened, closed. Opened again. I could practically hear her internal Wi-Fi buffering. Wait, he said you were separated. Of course he did. And yet, I said, holding up my left hand, I still have a ring. A mortgage. And matching monogram towels. She stepped back, stunned. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know he was still sleeping in the same bed as me. I finished for her. She blinked, looked like she might cry. "I'm so sorry." Now, this is the part where I'm supposed to say I screamed at her, told her she ruined my life, maybe even lunged at her for dramatic effect. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. "Oh, honey. Don't apologize to me. We're on the same team now." She looked at me like I'd started speaking Latin. "I mean, you didn't lie to me. You didn't promise me forever, or buy me a necklace while planning a weekend tryst in the same house where we celebrated our first anniversary." I handed her the box. This is your souvenir. Congratulations. You're dating a man who writes always to multiple women." She swallowed hard. I don't even know what to say." "Don't worry," I said, turning to leave. "You'll have time to think. He'll be back in town on Sunday. Be ready for the surprise party." "What party?" I looked over my shoulder. "Oh, didn't he tell you? We're throwing a little get-together next weekend. Close friends. Some family. A few surprises." I winked. "You should come." And then I walked away. Down the hallway. Out the front doors. Into the sunlight. Because if Nate thought juggling two women was hard, wait until he sees what happens when they join forces. I used to think the most dangerous thing a woman could do was fall in love with the wrong man. I was wrong. The most dangerous thing a woman can do is get organized. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had already created a spreadsheet. No, really, a whole Excel file titled Operation Celebration. I had tabs. Color codes. Categories. It was beautiful. Petty. Glorious. Because if Nate wanted a secret life, I was going to make it the most public disaster he'd ever experienced. And it all started with the guest list. Now, let me be clear, this wasn't going to be some rage-fueled, throw wine in his face scene. I wasn't going to destroy property or scream in a restaurant. I was going to throw a party. A real one. You know, the kind where everyone wears linen and pretends their life is Pinterest perfect while secretly judging each other's marriages? Yeah. That kind. I texted Nate first. Got a great idea. Let's host a welcome home from Phoenix brunch next weekend. We've been so distant lately, it might be nice to reconnect with everyone. Nate, that's unexpected. But sure. Sounds fun? Of course it sounds fun, darling. So glad you're on board. I booked the caterer we used for our engagement party. I told them to make everything brunch chic but with an edge. They didn't ask what that meant. Professionals. Then came the invitations. This was crucial. I couldn't just invite anyone. I needed people who mattered to him. People whose opinions could shake the foundation of his perfectly curated double life. So, I made 2 lists. 1, his world, his boss, Greg. The one who thinks Nate is a family man with strong values. His mother. Yes, I still send her birthday cards. Yes, she'll be horrified. Our couple friends. You know, the ones who call us #relationship goals on Instagram? And of course, our neighbors, who definitely heard our wedding vows word for word through those thin backyard fences. 2. My world, my best friend Hannah, a lawyer with the emotional range of a sledgehammer. My sister Clara, who never liked Nate and says I told you so like it's a love language. And finally, Janelle. Yep. I invited the other woman. And she accepted. Janelle, I'll be there. Should I bring anything? Me, just your presence. That'll be enough. There was something poetic about it. The very people Nate used to maintain his respectable husband image were going to be the audience for the unraveling of that very illusion. I didn't have to destroy him. He built the stage. I was just lighting it. Over the next few days, I played the role of forgiving wife like I was up for an Oscar. I sent Nate updates. Thinking of doing a mimosa bar. What do you think of a photo slideshow? He said yes. What a gift. Meanwhile, I worked with Hannah to pull phone records, bank transactions, and receipts from the burner phone. We didn't just have dirt, we had a full-blown excavation. And then, on Friday, 2 days before the party, Nate sent me a selfie from his hotel. Shirtless. Smirking. Caption, missing you already. Funny. He must have hit send all, because Janelle forwarded me the exact same photo. The difference? Hers said, can't wait to be home. I hate lying to her. Soon, baby. Oh, sweetie. You have no idea what soon really means. Sunday arrived with the kind of sunshine that almost felt rude. You know the kind, bright, warm, and completely unaware that you're about to detonate your marriage over a tray of mini quiches. By 10 a.m., the house was spotless. Candles lit. Charcuterie symmetrical. Nate's favorite jazz playlist was floating through the air like we were that couple again, the one with the matching robes and mutual delusion. You really went all out, he said, walking into the kitchen wearing his good sweater. The one he reserves for work dinners and lying to women named Janelle. I smiled sweetly. You deserve it. His hand grazed my lower back. I did not shudder. That, my friends, is Oscar-level acting. Just one thing, I said, flipping the sign I'd made earlier onto the bar cart. It read, Welcome home, Nate. A toast to honesty. He blinked. Cute theme. Oh, babe. You have no idea how cute it's about to get. Guests started arriving around 11. The front door was a revolving door of polite hugs, wine bottles and gift bags, and awkward small talk. Nate's mom brought her famous deviled eggs. Our neighbor Carol complimented my centerpieces like I hadn't found them on clearance at Target last night while rage texting Hannah. And then, she arrived. Janelle. To her credit, she looked composed. Sleek ponytail, neutral makeup, black jumpsuit that said, I'm not here to fight, I'm here to witness. She gave me a tight smile as I handed her a mimosa. Thanks for the invite. You're welcome, I said, handing her a napkin embroidered with the words, Bless this mess. I watched from the corner of the room as Janelle mingled with the crowd. Nate didn't see her at first, too busy charming his boss and refilling his own drink like a man without a ticking time bomb under his feet. But when he did spot her, oh, the color drained from his face like someone had hit the desaturate button in Photoshop. He made a beeline for me. Elena, he hissed, teeth clenched. Why is she here? Who? He gave me a look. Janelle. I sipped my mimosa. Oh, that's Janelle? Funny. She said the same thing when I told her I was your wife. His eyes darted around the room. Can we talk, privately? Of course, I said brightly. Right after the slideshow. And yes, there was a slideshow. Now, I know what you're thinking, girl, not a PowerPoint. But listen. When I said I was throwing a party, I meant an event. As everyone gathered in the living room, I clicked play. It started innocently enough. Childhood photos of Nate, our wedding pics, even a few family holiday shots. Us all around. Then came the new section. A reservation confirmation for the lake house. A photo of 2 toothbrushes in the master bath, Janelle had provided it. Texts. So many texts. Hannah blurred out the raunchy stuff. We're petty, not tacky. The room fell silent. And finally, because subtlety is not my spiritual gift, a slide with a simple sentence in white font on a black background, to the man who told 2 women the same lie. Surprise, we talk now. When the lights came up, you could hear a mimosa drop. Nate just stood there. Mouth slightly open. Sweating like someone who just realized he left the stove, and his entire life, on. I turned to him. Oh, and Nate? I handed him a manila envelope. What's this? He asked, voice barely a whisper. Divorce papers, I said. Pre-signed. All I need is your John Hancock. Behind him, his boss Greg was already putting his drink down and whispering to his wife. His mother looked like she was trying to remember every prayer she'd ever learned. Carol, our neighbor? Filming on her phone. I love Carol. And Janelle? She clinked her glass against mine and whispered, cheers to closure. There's a moment after a bomb goes off where everything is just quiet. That was my living room after the slideshow. No music. No clinking glasses. Just stunned silence, like someone had hit pause on the lives of everyone standing there. And then, chaos. Carol, God bless her nosy little heart, started whispering to Linda from across the street, who immediately pulled out her phone and began texting what I can only assume was the entire HOA. Nate's mother looked like she'd swallowed a lemon soaked in betrayal. And Nate? Oh, Nate was spiraling. Elena, you ambushed me, he muttered, eyes darting around like he was searching for the nearest emergency exit. You ambushed yourself, I replied, sipping my mimosa like it was holy water. I just provided the screen and popcorn. Janelle had quietly backed into the kitchen by then, sipping champagne like she was at a gallery opening. She gave me a slow, respectful nod. I returned it. 2 women. 1 liar. 0 drama between us. Nate stormed outside, his phone already pressed to his ear. I'd bet good money he called his best friend Kyle first. Probably to say something like, bro, she went crazy. Plot twist, Nate, I'm not crazy. I'm strategic. 15 minutes later, guests started trickling out. Some offered hugs. Others gave me those, wow, you really did that kind of looks. One woman patted my shoulder and whispered, I only stayed married to my first husband out of spite. Good for you. Icon. Once the house emptied out, and Hannah packed up the evidence folder like a legal fairy godmother, I finally sat down. My phone was lighting up like Times Square on New Year's. And that's when the real show started. Group chat number 1, Couples Game Night, formerly our monthly double date group. Now? A digital coliseum. Maya, Elena, what? Just happened. Sarah, girl. The slideshow? Becca, did you plan this? Like, for real? Me, yes. I planned it. Like he planned date nights with 2 women at the same time. Maya, I always knew Nate was shady. He once asked if my sister was single while you were in the bathroom. Becca, screaming. Crying. Throwing up. Sarah, is it too soon to ask if you're taking over the group wine nights? Group chat number 2, Whitmore Street watchdogs are neighbors. Mostly used for lawn care debates and lost cats. Until today. Carol, Elena, honey. Do you need anything? A shovel? Alibi? Linda, I told my husband if he ever pulls a Nate, I'm going full Elena mode. Me, I'm touched, truly. And yes, Carol, I'll take your casserole. And your security cam footage, just in case. Then came a text I wasn't expecting. Unknown number, I'm Nate's cousin. You don't know me, but, thank you. He's always been like this. No one ever calls him out. Until you. Well. That was oddly validating. At 7:13 p.m., Nate finally texted. Nate, I think we should talk. I stared at it for a second. Then a minute. Then 10. Me, we did. On a 65-inch screen in front of 30 people. No reply. Meanwhile, Janelle sent a Venmo request with the description, champagne, pain and suffering. I paid it. I wish I could tell you I felt satisfied, like some victorious queen riding off into the sunset, but honestly? I just felt clear. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. He built a double life and underestimated the one person who paid the bills, scheduled the dinner reservations, and picked the matching outfits for the holiday cards. Huge mistake. Because I may have played house, but now, I was building my own damn kingdom. You'd think after a public slide showing, 2 exposed relationships, and enough screenshots to qualify as digital war crimes, a man would take a hint and disappear. But not Nate. No, sweet Nate believed in damage control. And his version of that? A 3-step plan that felt less like strategy and more like panic with a side of clueless. Step 1, the grand gesture. It started Monday morning. I came downstairs, bleary-eyed and coffee-deprived, to find a bouquet on my porch. Not just any bouquet, a massive display of white lilies, red roses, and baby's breath exploding out of a gold vase like a desperate apology on steroids. The card? Let's talk. I still believe in us. Nate. Us? Baby, us was a Wi-Fi connection, and you've been logged out since the second you FaceTimed Janelle from our anniversary dinner business trip. Also, white lilies. Funeral flowers. On brand. I texted him one word. Me, return. Step 2, the confessional text blast that afternoon, I started getting screenshots. From everyone. Apparently, Nate had gone on a redemption tour. He texted friends, family, probably the Pope, spinning a very soft, pity-sprinkled version of events. Elena exaggerated. It wasn't like that. Janelle meant nothing. I was confused. We were going through a rough patch. Let me be clear, we were not going through a rough patch. We were going through his lies, and I was navigating them with grace and spreadsheets. And she meant nothing? Okay. Tell that to the shared Spotify playlist and the engraved necklace, Romeo. My sister Clara called him a bootleg Hugh Grant in crisis. Not inaccurate. Step 3, the public scene Wednesday, I stopped by my favorite cafe, the one where they know my order and my childhood trauma, when Nate walked in. Yup. He found me. I was halfway through my oat milk latte when I heard a voice behind me, Elena. I turned. Calm. Controlled. Dressed like a woman who just finalized her LLC and has no time for nonsense. He sat down without asking, like this was just a casual catch-up and not an ambush in a gluten-free bakery. I messed up, he said, eyes bloodshot, voice hoarse. I was scared. Of what? Consistency? Emotional maturity? A calendar? I didn't plan on falling for her, he added. I raised a brow. Wow. That must have been inconvenient, for your marriage. He looked down. I was trying to feel something. I thought you stopped loving me. Let me tell you something, men love pulling the "you were distant" card when they're caught cheating, like emotional intimacy is something they find at the bottom of someone else's bra. I took a slow sip of my latte and said, even if I had stopped loving you, that's not a reason. That's a conversation. Not a months-long deception. He leaned in, whispering like we were in a spy movie. We can fix this. Oh honey. This isn't IKEA. You don't get to lose half the screws and still expect it to stand up straight. I already filed, I said. You'll get the papers next week. Congratulations, you're officially single. Again. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. But I hadn't. I'd just finally told the truth out loud. I didn't think you had it in you, he said softly. Neither did you, I replied. That was your first mistake. And with that, I stood up, tossed my coffee cup into the trash, and walked out, leaving Nate behind with his funeral flowers, his sad text tour, and his baby's breath apology energy. Breakups hit in stages. First, you cry into your wine and sleep in his old hoodie. Then you cut your hair, update your passwords, and buy revenge lipstick in a color called something like Final Notice. But the most powerful stage? The rebrand. Because somewhere between the slideshow and Nate's soggy apology tour, I realized something important. He hadn't just betrayed me. He underestimated me. And that? Oh, that was going to cost him. Step 1. The name. I dropped his last name so fast my DMV clerk blinked. Elena Carter, I said, sliding my ID across the counter. The woman nodded slowly, typing into her computer. Divorce? Redemption, I replied. And a future in all caps. 20 minutes later, I walked out with a temporary license, a new signature, and the kind of grin you only get when you know your ex is about to see his last name trending on a Storytime video titled, How to Spot a Professional Liar in Business Casual. Step 2, the makeover. I wasn't about to go full cliché and dye my hair red and get bangs at midnight, but I did make an appointment with Mark. And Mark, bless his judgmental heart, said, finally. Let's remove every trace of that beige man from your aura. He gave me layers, confidence, and a serum that smelled like power. Then I went shopping, not for revenge, but for reinvention. Blazers that said I take meetings, heels that said I do not respond to your texts, and sunglasses so big they blocked out emotional damage. I looked in the mirror and didn't just see someone new. I saw me, version 2.0. Step 3, the new project now. Here's where it gets juicy. A few years ago, Nate and I had talked about starting a small business together, something with real estate staging, home design, a little his and hers branding. We even bought the domain name, modernestco.com. Of course, like most things in our relationship, Nate had big ideas and zero follow-through. Once he got bored, or distracted by other, nests, the whole thing got buried in his Google Drive. Well, guess what? I still had access to that drive. And the domain? It was still in my name. Registered. Paid. Just sitting there. So I called Hannah. Hear me out, I said. What if I actually launch the brand? Like, for staging homes? She asked. No, I said. For staging exits. I could hear her smile through the phone. Oh, I'm listening. We got to work. In 2 weeks, Modern Nest was reborn, not as a lifestyle brand, but as a full-on platform for women rebuilding after betrayal. We created a resource hub, a mini blog, even a little merch shop. My favorite seller? A mug that says, "He said I was dramatic." Now I have a logo. Nate found out 3 days later when someone tagged him on Instagram. He sent me a one-line text, "Nate, you really named the company after us?" Me, no, darling. I named it after what I escaped. By the end of the week, the site had over 10,000 hits. Women were messaging me, sending stories, sharing screenshots. Apparently, betrayal has a demographic, and it wears mascara and doesn't skip leg day. And me? I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was incorporated. The thing about divorce is, you don't just break up with him, you break up with his entire family. Which in my case, included one woman I never saw coming, Lynette Carter. Nate's mom. My former mother-in-law. The woman who once cried at our wedding and gave me a monogrammed pie dish. She called on a Tuesday. I stared at the name on my screen like it was a ghost from a parallel universe where casseroles fix everything. For a moment, I debated sending it to voicemail. But curiosity, and a healthy dash of emotional masochism, won. I picked up. "Elena?" she asked, her voice tight and tentative. "Hi, Lynette." A pause. Long enough to be awkward. Maybe long enough to be meaningful. I heard about the party. Ah. The party. Capital T, capital P, legend of the group chat, survivor of the mimosa storm. Honestly, I should have trademarked it. I figured you had, I said. I wasn't there, obviously, but people are talking. They usually do. Another pause. Then, he's not doing well. I almost laughed. Not in a cruel way, just in that, are we really doing this? Way. Is that why you called? I asked. To tell me your son is sad after being exposed for living a double life? No, she said quietly. I called because I don't know what to believe. He says it was just a mistake. That you embarrassed him. That you turned everyone against him. Ah, yes. The victim narrative. Classic Nate. And what do you believe? I asked, keeping my voice calm even. There was a breath on the line. Then, to her credit, she said, I believe there's a reason you went through all that trouble. And I also believe Nate is really good at rewriting history to suit himself. Well. Growth? But, she added, I also think you humiliated him. Publicly. There it was. The but. The why did you have to make it a spectacle argument women have been getting for centuries. Lynette, I said, do you know how many nights I sat in our bed wondering why he was pulling away? How many lies I swallowed just to keep the peace? How many times I blamed myself because I couldn't figure out why the man I married had become a stranger? Silence. I didn't humiliate him. I just turned on the lights. If what people saw was embarrassing, that's because he was. Another pause. And then, so softly I almost missed it, I'm sorry. I blinked. Excuse me? I'm sorry, she repeated. For not asking questions. For assuming everything was fine. For saying things like men will be men when I should have said men should be accountable. I sat down. I never had the guts to leave my husband, she said, voice quivering. He cheated for years. I stayed. Smiled. Served appetizers at dinner parties. Watched my own daughter do the same. When you married Nate, I thought maybe, he'd be better. You were so good for him. I wasn't a detox program, I said, not unkindly. She gave a sad laugh. No. You were a woman who deserved better. And just like that, the conversation shifted. We weren't adversaries anymore. We were two women connected by disappointment, navigating different decades of the same betrayal. Before we hung up, she said, if you ever want that pie dish back, it's yours. I smiled. No offense, Lynette, but I think I'm baking something new now. And that was the day I realized something important. Sometimes, the apology you think you want from him, you end up getting from someone who watched him become the man you had to leave. It started with a DM. Just one little notification. Janelle_4B, hey. You got a minute? Now, keep in mind, after the party, yes, it's still capitalized, Janelle and I hadn't really spoken. We were civil, sure. United in mutual disgust. But our alliance was quiet. Silent solidarity. No brunches, no bestie bracelets. Just two women who realized they'd been sold the same lie by the same overconfident man. So when she messaged me 2 weeks after my rebrand went semi-viral, I was curious. Slightly suspicious. And maybe just a little excited. Me, sure. What's up? She replied instantly. Janelle_4B, I know we said we were done with all things Nate, but you need to see this. 5 minutes later, I was sitting on my couch in leggings, tea in hand, scrolling through screenshots that made me laugh so hard I nearly choked on my peppermint. Apparently, Nate had tried to get back with her too. Yes. After all of this. After the slideshow, the brunch, the breakup text parade, the mug with his name on it that says emotional liability, he had the audacity to circle back to Janelle like she was part of a loyalty program. His message? Nate, I know things got out of hand. But I still think what we had was real. You felt it too, right? Elena was never really present. You and I, we had something else. Something rare. Something rare. I mean, my dude. What is this? A Pokemon? Janelle didn't even reply at first. She said she just let it marinate. Sat on it for a few days. Then finally hit him with, Janelle, you're right. It was rare. Rarely honest. Rarely respectful. Rarely real. I swear, I could feel the mic drop through the screen. But that wasn't even the best part. She told me she'd started therapy. Not some soft, wine and crystals therapy. We're talking gloves off, dig into your childhood trauma therapy. She said she finally realized she'd been falling for complicated men her whole life, and Nate was just the final boss in a pattern of dating emotionally stunted mystery novels in khakis. Turns out, she said, your slideshow saved me 3 years of wasting my own. We ended up FaceTiming. And you know what? She looked peaceful. Lighter. She wasn't the woman I met in apartment 4B, nervous, cornered, unknowingly complicit. She was grounded now. A little sharper. A lot more clear. She told me she'd started writing. About the experience. About the red flags. About all the ways women are taught to compete with each other for the attention of men who don't even deserve eye contact. Maybe I'll turn it into something, she said. A blog. A podcast. Something honest. You should, I said. There's room for more truth in the world. And fewer Naties. We laughed. Like, really laughed. And in that moment, I realized something wild. Janelle wasn't a villain in my story. She was just someone who believed the same lie, told in a slightly different voice. And now? She was telling her story, in her own voice. That, my friends, is growth. You know how everyone talks about falling in love again after heartbreak? Like it's some dramatic rom-com moment involving a meet-cute, a spilled coffee, and a man who wears a cardigan and understands your trauma? Yeah, that didn't happen. Instead, I fell in love with someone else. Me. It didn't happen all at once. There was no music swelling in the background, no slow-motion montage of me twirling through a field of wildflowers in a linen dress, though, full transparency, I did buy a linen dress, on clearance, because character development deserves breathable fabric. No, it happened in the quiet. In the mornings where I made coffee for one and didn't feel sad about it. In the nights I fell asleep in a bed that was mine, sheets I picked, books on the nightstand I actually read, and silence that didn't feel heavy anymore. I started walking again. Not for fitness or endorphins or because Instagram told me hot girls walk. I just walked. Without headphones. Just me, my thoughts, and the very weird squirrels in my neighborhood. I painted my guest room sage green. I joined a ceramics class. I made the world's most lopsided coffee mug and laughed so hard I cried. I deleted old texts. I kept the good pillows. I let myself want more. And the craziest part? People noticed. One day, Carol from across the street, yes, our Carol, leaned over the fence and said, "You seem lighter lately." I smiled. I let go of something heavy. She nodded. He always was loud for no reason. You get me, Carol. The modern Nest site took off, too. Not just the store or the blog, but the community. Women sharing stories, helping each other rebuild, posting things like, left him, kept the dog, launched a candle business. And I thought, yes. This is it. This is what comes after the storm. One night, while scrolling through comments, I saw someone had written, "It didn't ruin me. It redirected me." I sat with that. Reread it. Screenshot it. Because that's the thing about betrayal, it's loud when it hits, messy when it crashes, and strangely quiet when you finally realize, it was a door, not a dead end. And yes, before you ask, I have started dating again. Very slowly. Like, glacial speed. One hinge open at a time. But not out of fear. Out of choice. Because when you've spent years molding yourself to fit into someone else's version of a relationship, you learn to be more careful about who gets your time, your trust, and your good throw pillows. I met someone recently. Nothing serious. He asks real questions, listens when I speak, and doesn't once refer to emotional availability as drama. But here's the plot twist. If it works out? Great. If it doesn't? Also great. Because for the first time in my life, I'm not trying to be chosen. I choose myself. Every damn day.